Welcome to another episode of Mysteries Unknown. Guys, I've got a really good episode for you tonight. I've got a gentleman who goes by the name of Brown Dwarf, and he had a couple of Class A encounters in California. But what makes these so interesting to me is these encounters happened really close to where the Patty film was captured. He's been all over that territory. He's got some amazing stories to share with you tonight about that. Everything from orbs to deep diving into these encounters and what these creatures are. You don't want to miss this one. But before we go any further, I just want to say thank you for being here tonight. If you've got a mystery or an encounter you would like to send me, you can send it to me by email at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. Let's jump right in the story. Brown Dwarf, welcome to the show.
Greetings. Thank you, man. Good evening.
Well, man, I'm just excited that you're here with me tonight and that you took the time out of your schedule to share this encounter with my audience. And as soon as you told me it happened in the area where Patty was at, I had to have you on. And why don't you take us back to the very beginning and kind of walk us through these encounters?
Yeah, briefly, I'm originally from Southern California, grew up in Los Angeles, and I'm actually here now, so you might hear some celebration sounds in the background still. Um, yeah, I ended up moving up to Northern California at some point in my life. And ended up living in the hills of southern Humboldt County, and was kind of schooled in the living of the way they do it up there, and country living. It was just so different from me, coming from the city and stuff. And yeah, man, I was hooked up with some cool people, and there was a boyfriend of a female friend of mine who needed someone to basically caretake for his property. And yeah, I ended up making the move up there, which is pretty far from Southern California. You're looking at from Los Angeles, maybe 11, 12 hours drive. And yeah, just a beautiful place. And I did have a little bit of history with it. I had visited many times before that, before I made the move. So I was pretty familiar with the area and some of the culture up there. And one of the things being Bigfoot. I didn't, before I had gone up there, I had no idea that Northern California was kind of like a mecca for this stuff, and especially this region we're talking about here. And so yeah, I ended up making the move, big life changes, and ended up spending a lot of time out in the hills out there. One of the things that you run into a lot out there is once again the Bigfoot phenomenon. So you'll run into, like, stickers and people wearing shirts and cars with, like I said, all types of Bigfoot stuff and storefronts and stuff like that, and a lot of logos from companies, and so it's definitely a thing up there. And after some time, of course, you start hearing as the stories from like locals and stuff like that. And yeah, every once in a while you'd hear something interesting and stuff. And so little by little, I started diving into the topic more, just being out in the woods and stuff. And a lot of times, I would be alone, because the owner of the land had another place in town, plus kids and stuff like that. So he was running around a whole lot, and there was a lot of times where I was on my own there, and I would stay all year. So I got to experience some of the winters and stuff like that too, which would bring snow and just yeah, having to burn wood and all that fun stuff, when you're out there. And yeah, so learning and schooling myself in the Bigfoot topic, I started getting some YouTube videos from my brother out in Southern California, and I started learning some of the things that people were talking about and experiencing, and were saying that were Bigfoot related. And I became very familiar with a lot of the wildlife we had out there. You got everything from bears, mountain lions, and you name it. And so you become familiar with the sounds and some of the activity and stuff like that. And so yeah, there was a few people I had ran into at the time, and then I was getting referred to a certain person at the time that I didn't know much about, and his name is Bobo. It was James Bobo Fay, from Finding Bigfoot. And come to find out that he was a local in the area, and people were like, "Yeah, you gotta hook up with him, and if you're interested in this and stuff like that." And I was like, "Okay." So I was kind of out there searching for Bigfoots and this Bobo guy, and as life has it, I forget how we ended up meeting, but we ended up hooking up eventually because it's a huge county, small towns and stuff like that. So a lot of people just kind of know each other, but at the same time, you can be isolated and not be around people too. So it's pretty cool. But I ended up finding Bobo, and we ended up hooking up and exchanged information, numbers, and kept in touch. And eventually, I got some opportunities to go out with him. Anyway, and that's kind of moving forward a little bit. So from that piece of land that I was talking about, it's called Honeydew. The area, the town is called Honeydew, and there's a big river that goes by there, down in the valley. And you actually got to go. There's two ways to get into these hills there, and one of them is actually going through the redwoods. So it's a well-known area for Bigfoot activity. There's a lot of historical stuff that I've heard out of the redwoods there, and it's just beautiful, beautiful area, and there's also a river that goes through there, is the Eel River. And so yeah, not much really ever happened to me there that I could say it was like, a Sasquatch on the land or anything like that. But I did have a weird episode where I had this sleep paralysis type deal go on. But yeah, it's maybe for another show. But that was a strange thing that happened to me there. So moving forward, I ended up meeting my partner, and her and I ended up getting a place together. We moved in, and which is a little further south from Honeydew, still in the hills, southern Humboldt. And to kind of give people an idea, there's a Netflix documentary that came out, and it's basically in those hills there, right in that area. We weren't too far from the epic center of that documentary there, but um and so yes, just doing our thing, living life there, and becoming more knowledgeable about this topic. I ended up noticing some stuff going on this particular land here that was raising my attention. There was some moments of like some trees breaking and falling over and stuff like that, and I know I had seen stuff like that happen before it happens, natural tree fall, deadfall, and stuff like that. But it was happening, I think, too often, and it happened so many times. And unfortunately, I was never able to get that on like video or anything. But yeah, it's just weird stuff like that started happening, and then I started learning about people in these stick structures. And I know a lot of people kind of are not into that or may frown on that. It's kind of weird when you get into the Bigfoot world how you get these different cliques of people with different mindsets and beliefs and stuff like that. And so anyway, I thought it was super interesting. And I was like, you know what, we had plenty of land, and both of these properties were like 40 plus acres. So there was a lot of quite a bit of land to explore there. And so I started exploring around the property here, and yeah, I started finding certain little things that were like, familiar, like, because it was like things that I was seeing from other people in other places. And it's like some of these stick formations and stick placements and tree placements and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, well, I was making note of it, and I became actually interested in like documenting some of this stuff, because some of the people that I was tuning into were sharing videos and kind of like how would you say, it was like current stuff that was happening. And I kind of fell into these groups online that were once again all sharing things, experiences. And I was like, I'd like to share some of this stuff that I'm finding and starting to experience here. And so little by little I started documenting and sharing stuff, and I fell deeper into the rabbit hole, and really started going in hard, because I just there were some local state parks down in the hills, these redwood parks that I was mentioning, and I really started finding some intricate structures there. There's some like teepee type structures. these X formations, and it was just really surprising to me that I was finding this stuff down there. The stuff on the property was a little more subtle, but you could tell that yeah, stuff could have been done by humans and stuff like that. But there wasn't anyone supposed to be on the property, so and it could have been the previous owners and stuff like that. Who knows? But yeah, some more of the blatant stuff would happen down in the state parks and stuff like that, and along the coast. So as I started searching more and finding these things, and along with finding these things, I was having experiences. There's one time where I was looking at one of these structures and in the redwoods, and I had a massive like tree break not too far from me, and once again, yeah, it could have been natural, but I think there was something there. I really felt a presence of something, and just things like that would happen more and more. Sometimes I would revisit some of these structures, and there would be stuff left behind. There would be maybe add-ons to the structures, little trinkets, sometimes little weird stick ground glyphs and weird stuff like that. And so I was just, making a note of all this stuff, documenting, sharing, and eventually one day on the property. So all this stuff's going on. I'm out searching, and things are happening at home. Um, I started noticing these orbs of light that people talk about, and I'm not saying that it's Bigfoot or any. I don't have any proof of that or any evidence, but it is a thing, because I'm here diving into this topic and everything, and then this other phenomenon starts happening on the land too, and I'm just like, whoa. And at the time I was already kind of deep into this stuff and had learned about started just learning about the orbs, and then it starts happening to me, so I'm like, whoa, this is weird. And it's weird as I went in more into this topic, it was like that, as I like learned more about certain things and I would have certain things in mind, some of those things would happen in real life, and I almost felt like guided to certain areas, and some of these areas also had history of reports and stuff like that. So I would also jump online, check out databases, see where reports were coming from, and actually, according to the BFRO, and I know that's another, that people are like, oh, boo boo on the BFRO, and some people are like, all right, they're good with it. And I just feel like it's one of the only databases, extensive databases that we have, and I've heard that yeah, they supposedly they cherry pick reports and stuff like that. I don't know, but and I have gone out with guys from BFRO, and it's been really cool. So I don't hate on them or anything like that. But whatever, I just used it as a database for me and my county and state, and to see what was going on, and come to find out that Humboldt County has the most reports out of California. So I just knew it was a major hot spot. And then yeah, just hearing all the information from people, locals, and others that have been in the area. Um yeah, it was just like, man, I'm right. We're on to getting onto something here. And eventually, so all this stuff is happening one day on the property. It's weird. The property was like, there was like three tiers, I want to say. So there was like these ridges behind the house, and then so it was the house level, and then there was a dirt road there, and there's several other properties in that area, but we were a gated, like you needed a passcode to get into those properties, so not anyone would be in there, and our neighbors were all pretty separate, and they're all big properties, and so your neighbors are pretty far away. um and so I was headed to this top level that we had, and there was this steep dirt hill that you had to go up to get to this level of the property. And then there was this third level that was way down below. And so it was summer day, and I forget the year exactly, but it must have been like, if I'm guessing, maybe 5, 6 years ago. And it's summer day, and the property is heavily wooded. So I'm headed to this top part of the property, and it's hot. Windows are down, and so there's woods on both sides of me. And I'm noticing on the left side of me. So I'm in my truck. I have a black Tacoma, and I'm going pretty slow. Maybe 5, 10 miles at the most. And on the left side of me, I noticed in my peripheral vision, I noticed that something is like moving through the trees, almost like flanking me or like pacing me, moving parallel with me. And it's moving pretty quick. And it reminded me, I always mention this, it reminds me of one of those kids flip books, those cartoon flip books. I don't know if you remember, that you flip through and then you see like the anime kind of just play out, the book kind of goes anime on you. It animates, right? That's what I mean. And that's what it reminded me of. It was kind of like that, 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 that. And so I stopped my truck, and mind you, I have my phone next to me. At this point, I'm like really into documenting, and know that you got to have your phone ready whenever something's happening, and or something's about to happen. And then I noticed at the bottom of this old oak tree, it was a pretty big old growth oak tree. I noticed what looked like a face looking at me, and going back to the figure, when it was going by, it didn't seem huge. It just seemed like a dark black that I could see, but it did look like a humanoid figure, but it wasn't big. And so I'm looking at this face, what looks like a face at the base of this oak tree, just kind of like peeking at me from the bottom. And I'm just like having this stare down, and I'm like, oh my God, like in my head, I'm thinking like, am I looking in, wow, I'm like, this is it. And so it was jet black, and I couldn't see any shag or anything. It just seemed like perfectly head shape, jet black. And around the eyes that I could remember, you could kind of see what I would imagine be the skin, and it just kind of looked like a grayish behind there. And as far as like nose, mouth, I can't really tell you much. I just remember focusing more on like the skin around the eyes. And I couldn't tell if it really had like a conical shape head. It didn't, seem like that, anything weird. It just seemed like a, almost like a human type head, but just larger than a human's head. So I would imagine, if whatever the being or the subject was, it wasn't huge. And I couldn't tell if it was male or female or anything like that, because I couldn't see the rest of the body. And so we're looking, and I couldn't tell you exactly how long we must have had this stare down for, but it seemed quick. And I don't remember, I didn't grab my phone, I didn't record, and I don't remember the subject either leaving or anything. I just remember just driving off and heading up to the top level of the property, where I was going to go do whatever I was going to do. And but I was shocked and surprised. I wasn't scared. um and there was no one around that I could tell at the time. My partner wasn't around. And so I just went on about my day, but I was super surprised and excited. And that was that. And I didn't feel any negativity or any, once again, any fear or anything like that. But that just, once again, pushed me more into this field, and like I said, meeting up with uh eventually Bobo, and then meeting others. I got invited to, there's a group up there in Humboldt called the Bluff Creek Project. So come to find out, back when I was in Honeydew and just meeting different people, someone eventually told me that the Patterson film, the Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot film, was filmed in Humboldt County. And I was like, whoa, no way, like trip out. And but I didn't know exactly where. I just knew it was in the northern part of the county. And then after meeting people and stuff like that, I got invited. There was the group, the Bluff Creek Project. They do these call it a camp out, squatch out, or whatever. But Bluff Creek Project has been working on pinpointing where the Patterson film site is, and they believe they found it. I believe they found it also. There's been disputes also with that. There's MK Davis, who has his site, which is a little further down the creek than where this particular site is. And yeah, they've done a lot of work to pinpoint certain trees, the background of the footage and all that. And so we go there yearly. And actually, I just got back from there, and we could get into that. That'd be a whole other show there, but maybe in the future we could get into some of that. Also, through my partner, she had family members that lived in different parts of the county also. So I got to visit different properties and a lot of different areas. Like I said, Humboldt is huge, it's a huge county. And actually, her father at the time also lived in a neighboring county that's also known for a lot of activity, Trinity County, California. And got to spend a lot of time there. He was also in a cabin up in the hills there, and there's a lot of well-known places out there. And so over the years, I was able to just check out a lot of places in California, and then eventually also Southern Oregon. We ended up moving there after Humboldt, but yeah. So that was the first actual like visual like solid thing that I could say was most likely one of these things, and I do believe it is. Sometimes people will try to question you and say, well, how can you prove that? I can't prove it, but to me, I feel that you know that was it right there. And so yeah, we could fast forward on to the second time where I had something happen, and this is up in the northern part of the county. And once again, I've been all over from the coast to the inland part of the county and neighboring counties. I was blessed to be able to really travel around there a lot and check out a lot of these places that, once again, like I said, have history and stuff like that. Um, so I had moved, so we had these we were in the southern part of the county, but we also had gotten a place in town, which a lot of people do up there for their kids to go to, better schooling, and it's better for especially high school and stuff, to get them out of the smaller towns and into a bigger school. So we have the city of Eureka, which is like our bigger city up there, and Arcata. And so our son wanted to go to school there, and we made, found the place, and so we would bounce back and forth from the southern part to town sometimes. And eventually I got a roommate also at the time, in the town of Trinidad, which is a bit north of Eureka, and it's a small fishing town there. And you got some redwoods in that area as well, and you got Highway 101 that goes through there. And so yeah, I started spending some time there in Trinidad, and actually, with the structure thing, one of the things I felt like was kind of a discovery for me, because I was finding a lot of this stuff in the redwoods. I started finding stuff along some of these structures along the coast too, and I was like, "Whoa, that's weird!" Like Bigfoot at the beach, and I as I learned more, yeah, there's reports actually of them being on the beach and stuff like that. So it's not, it's not, it's a known thing. So uh yeah, so I was like, all right, so they're up on the coast to it, and around Trinidad I was finding some of this stuff also, and sometimes you'd find even like I would say more impressions, not full on tracks, but around these things also. And then I did find some tracks in certain areas where some of these things were also found, and so I'm thinking, yeah, they're up here in the Trinidad area. And actually I looked into some reports and found some reports around there. And so anyway, one day I'm leaving Trinidad, heading on to the Highway 101, which is a major highway up here, southbound. And Trinidad is tiny, super cute fishing town, and super fun. Um, so I'm southbound, and I'm thinking it's around maybe fall, maybe around getting around this time, because I remember the sun was kind of setting, so it was like evening, maybe 5, 6 o'clock that I can remember. And I could see the sun setting, and it had just rained too, so there was like the highway was a little wet, and it was just a nice vibe, nice sunset. And there was like 3 or 4 other cars when I jumped onto the ramp of the highway, 4 cars that had already passed ahead of me. And at that time I had noticed across the opposite side of the highway, which is a pretty big highway. I'm thinking it's maybe like 4 lanes, maybe 2 or 3 on each side, something like that, maybe 6 lanes. Anyway, pretty wide. I noticed the subject across the opposite side, and it was, once again, it was jet black, and it was super tall this time. It was really tall and thin. Okay, so it wasn't this bulky, when you think of Bigfoot, or no, it was like super lanky and tall, but I couldn't notice any like shag of hair or anything that could tell hair. It just like once again, it was just like a solid black cutout. And this thing starts to walk across the highway. So obviously on his side there wasn't any cars coming, but when it started getting towards the middle of the highway, the cars that had passed me up, I was thinking, all right, these cars, if this guy walks across, these cars are gonna either have to stop and honk or hit the brakes, or these people are gonna honk at whatever it is that's walking by. And you do get, uh travelers sometimes, kind of walking along the highway. Every once in a while you get bikers and stuff. So it's not bicyclist. So it's not, rare. Even hitchhikers, we still even get hitchhikers up that way, which is crazy. So it's not rare to see people, but this thing was a lot taller than your average I could tell it was something there. And so this thing's going across and no one honks or anything. So I'm thinking, all right, this thing made it across. Once it gets to the edge of the highway on our side, I'm going to be able to see who this is or what it is. And on that side of the highway, on my side of the highway, it's a steep drop off, and it's nothing but like redwood trees there. And if you were to keep going down that steep embankment, I would imagine you'd end up at the beach because Trinidad has beaches there. And so no one honked. This thing must have made it across. So I'm like, this thing's gonna be on the side of the road when I pass by. And this is all happening quick. We're on the highway, and I pass by where I think this subject is gonna be, and there's nobody and there's nothing there. So I'm like, whoa, what? And so I'm imagining that whatever it was or whoever it was dropped down into that steep embankment. And when I passed by that part too, I kind of just try to peek over a bit, and I didn't see anything. And that was that. I know the encounters maybe are not too exciting, but it's just that's what they were, and those are it, man. So I did want to bring up a little bit of information that I found out after all this, because I did note. So going back to my first encounter, eventually my partner, notified her, and I notified our neighbors who was best friends with my partner, and they were just kind of like, whoa, they didn't really know what to say, and just that was that. But I did tell someone this time around when this happened. I was actually into different people's podcasts and stuff like that, and kind of like how I found you. There was a podcast I was following, and I jumped on immediately and told the chat and told the guy running the podcast what had happened, and he was a good friend. And so I know that that was noted on that day, but I think the guy has removed he had trouble with his channel and stuff and had videos removed. So I don't know, I would like to find out the exact date and everything. But yeah, so I did tell someone right after when that happened. And yeah, so I was looking at some recent BFRO reports, and I noticed that there was a submission of a report from, I think it was like 2013. So they submitted it recently, but it was from several years back, and it's out of Humboldt County, out of Trinidad, California. And there's this road that it was, I believe, two women in a car, and there's this road that they described they were on, which parallels Highway 101 and the beach there. And I actually know the road because the not only I was living in Trinidad, but the landowner from Honeydew, his second place was up in Trinidad. So sometimes I'd be up there, and he actually lived near that road, so I knew that road very well, that side road. And they had a road cross sighting in that area and kind of described the same thing I did, and I was just like, wow, okay. And yeah, I could add a little more to that. So there's several other got some books and stuff, and some of them were written by, I'm sure you're familiar with David Paulides. Yeah, David Paulides. So David Paulides had actually done research in the area. There's several books that he wrote, and then also that I got. There's one called the Hoopa Project, which is reservation in Humboldt County, and which is not far from Willow Creek and also Bluff Creek area, and the Hoopa Reservation seems to be the epicenter also of a lot of these reports that you'll find. Um, and so in the Hoopa project, there's a report that he puts in there out of Trinidad also where people reported seeing Sasquatches. There's these rocks right off the beach that are in the water. And they reported seeing Sasquatches swimming from rock to rock. And they believe that they were collecting possibly eggs from nests that are there from some of the seabirds and stuff like that. And so there is history out of Trinidad. And it was just, mind blowing to have that experience there, man.
Man, I know you said a couple things that really caught my attention. And you're like, hey, they sound kind of like regular boring reports to me, man. But those are really interesting to me, and I really enjoyed hearing that. And you also said something else that is rings true, man. This is 100% rabbit hole. Once you start opening up that box, man, it just gets deeper and deeper, and there's so many things. You generally you walk away with more questions than answers, man, and that was incredible. I can imagine that was life changing, and there's a lot we're going to get into. But one of the things I always like to ask my guests right off the bat, man, and having that Class A encounter like that, how did that affect your life?
Well, it drove me deeper into the topic. It for me, it validated, what I was experiencing, what I was getting into, all this stuff, and yeah, and then it comes along with people. There's the two worlds I'd like to talk about in the Bigfoot arena, and it's like obviously there's the flesh and blood camp, and there's a more spiritual camp, and I feel like, yeah, there's definitely something there in the spiritual aspect, and I don't knock flesh and blood because it is flesh and blood as well. So there's that whole battle there, and I question it daily. I ponder about this stuff. I think about it all the time. Once again, you talk the rabbit hole. You talk the rabbit hole, and I sometimes say you get the bug. You catch the Bigfoot bug, and it's just like a daily thing. It's part of my life, and yeah, man, it's just I feel like very motivated, to learn more, experience more, and that's why I've gone out to these different places, and have been having more experiences and learning more. Excuse me, and and like I said, recently this year, just did two trips up to Bluff Creek, and excuse me, and just every year I've been going there for about maybe going on 5 6 years or so, I think now, and we try to make it a yearly thing. This year I got to go twice, which was a blessing again. And like I said, I'm in Southern California, so as to before, I was living basically in the county, and even being in the county, it's still a drive to get there. So from Southern California, it was a mission. So to get there twice this year was big for me, and yeah, we had several experiences there, that we could get into, and we do like going down to the actual film site, but these few last trips we've been exploring a lot more of the area. So there's a lot of different campsites and spots that people don't go to. A lot of people just go for the film site, and yeah, it's possible that they may strike lightning may strike twice, and they appear at that site again. But I don't think, after, I think it's 57 years now, that they'd be in that same exact area. But we still have the Bluff Creek project, and then several other people actually have a lot of game cams down in that particular area, just in case. And they do capture a lot of cool wildlife, bears and mountain lions, and another one being the Humboldt martin, which was thought to be extinct, and they've been getting them on game camera, so that's a pretty cool thing. So what we get it out there a lot is the wood knocks. We get a lot of weird knocking sounds, and this time of year, yeah, the acorns are falling, and they make loud knocking sounds too, so that could be a lot of it too, but some of them are very interesting. And And in July, actually, there's several of us that come out from different states too, and all these guys are into making their own documentaries and got their YouTube channels and stuff like that. And so July, we had actually a special guest who had returned, and I don't know if you know of Alex Pedikov from Small Town Monsters. Yeah, yeah, he's pretty well known in the scene and is doing his thing. So salute to Alex. But yeah, I got the invite from my other buddy, and Alex showed up, and we all did our little documenting and stuff there. But he recently just released his version of this recent trip, and it's called the Return to Bluff Creek, and it's from the uh, Beyond the Trail series over on Small Town Monsters. And so that'll give you guys an idea of what we're experiencing out there and stuff. And Damon Irons, he's one of our good friends and a pilot guy, awesome pilot with the drones. And he's got a drone with therm on it too, thermal imaging. So it's super cool when he's around. The night that I got there, this is July, he was already there a couple nights before and had his audio recorder up and going. And I did too as soon as I got there that night. But yeah, he ended up capturing some, once again, knocks and this weird vocal sound that I'll try to repeat it for you now. But it was almost like a woo, like this weird trippy type, and it didn't sound like any other wildlife that we know of and stuff. And then so that's featured in the documentary too, if people want to check that out. But yeah, man, I kind of kicked myself because in the morning I didn't hear anything while I was sleeping, but I made a mistake of clearing my audio recorder just because I didn't hear anything. And it's a thing I normally don't do. I just record all the way through, and audio is a pain in the butt to go through. And yeah, so but Damien captured it, and yeah, we're just getting captured a lot of different audio type sounds, like I said, knocks, and there's, yeah, certain moments where you feel vibes, certain presence, and stuff like that. And in the previous years, there's also been just experiences with different people out there that have had things happen that leads me to believe that they're still around there. So I feel even this time, these past couple times around, I feel like they're still there.
I think that they, I don't know if they migrate regions. I don't think they travel across the country. I think that you go to different regions of the U.S. and they're all different. Down here in the South, they're really thick. They're aggressive. They seem to be. You get over, on the West Coast, they're completely different. But man, you have led a very interesting life, and this has definitely had a profound impact on you. And it sounds like you've had some really good experiences and met some great people. That's what I love about this community is you get to meet some really nice people and some great people. It's extremely divided, like you talked about, and everybody's got a lot of opinions. When you had this encounter, did you feel anything particular? I don't remember if you mentioned that or not, but was it more of just like a kind of a shock feeling, or did you feel anything?
Yeah, it was once again, even the Trinidad incident. It wasn't, I wasn't scared, nothing. Like, it was more like a surprising, kind of like when you see a mountain lion. I've had mountain lion sightings. I've actually even captured a mountain lion on FLIR, on thermal imaging. I've gotten, with this practice over the years, I've gotten really good at capturing wildlife and certain anomalies too. I get into other stuff. And I don't know if I mentioned, I got a YouTube channel myself that we'll see if we mention later. But yeah, man, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the skies too. And going back to those orbs, I got lots of footage of that stuff too, because it was a nightly thing that was happening. So I'm here. My intentions are to see if there's any Sasquatch activity and this other phenomenon starts happening. So I feel like there is a connection, and the orb stuff started happening in other places too. So there is a whole other a rabbit hole there with that, and I just don't I haven't checked it out yet. I keep it on the list, and and yeah, I feel like more people are reporting and talking about these things. A lot of experiences that people have had have been negative, very scary and terrifying and not good. And so I could see how you could be turned off and turned away, or not want to get into this stuff because of that, and luckily it wasn't like that for me. I just dove into it more, and I do get, do get the fear sometimes when I'm out there in these creepy places and beautiful places. But yeah, it's all part of it, and I just want to experience and learn more, man, and that's why I just keep going at it.
Man, I'm glad that you haven't had any bad encounters or experiences with these things, because like you said, it can go either way, and it's a strange world, man. And the orb thing is not something you generally think about when you think about these creatures when you first get into it. I had a gentleman contact me, and he actually was very hesitant to come on the show initially, and he finally came on the show, and he told me this encounter he had, man, where he was out camping with his family, and in long story short, basically he saw these eyes, these green eyes. I think they were green or blue, but anyways, this face come from the wood line and come up to his tent, cocked its head, and just kind of like, stared at him very intently. And it was a very not good feeling, very just horrific, scared feeling. They had guns and all that. Of course, it's not, I don't think it's going to do a whole lot of good. But long story short, man, this thing pulled back, another set of eyes appeared, and then they turned they disappeared. And then the next thing you know, they turned into orbs and hovered above their tent, and he's like, I'm trying to process this and figure out what to do with this thing. And his dad was with him. Yeah, it gets really strange, but his dad was with him. And he said on the way home, they left the night. His dad actually called on the name of Jesus, and these things left. He said, but on the way home, they were talking, and his dad said, "You did see the faces in these orbs, right?" And he goes, "No, I didn't see anything like that." But he said they looked like a sun god type face in one of these orbs. One was big and one was little. And this world gets really weird, man, and there's a lot to it and a lot to unpack. But I'm thankful that you've had some good encounters and experiences. And man, what a beautiful place to explore and all that. But we can't not. I mean, you were in that area. What do you think happened to Patty, man? Like, and 50 years ago, man. Do you think that she's still around that area?
Yeah, so there's this whole theory. I don't know if you're familiar with MK Davis's work. He's got a YouTube channel. It's you could just look up his name, but he's done a lot of good work on the Patterson film. I believe he's the guy who stabilized it. And there's other people that have done work like Bill Munns and stuff like that. But within those people that have done work with the film, there's been disputes as well and all that. But according to MK Davis, he believes that there was a massacre of possibly, I think, several Bigfoots, that Patty was massacred. And yeah, he gets into certain details about it. And to me, I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of in on the fence, man. It's weird when you get into the whole Patty story. There's just so many things that kind of, I don't know, it pulls you different ways, man. And so many people that were involved, and the people that were involved and stuff. So if you get into the details, you'll start finding this stuff, and it makes you question, yeah, whether this stuff was, a hoax or real. But I do believe Patty was real. I mean, for it to look the way it did, and she had breasts, for me, that's a big thing right there. I mean, that just kind of solidifies it for me. I mean, yeah. But yeah, no, there's that whole theory of that. And if it's true, I mean, it's super sad, it's just, and it's possible. It's possible, but I don't like to think of that. And some of the guys that I, hang with, some of the Bluff Creek Project guys and other people that are very knowledgeable in that whole topic of Patty and everything. I haven't really heard anything from them about that. So I don't think, they feel it's a thing. But yeah, look into that, man. It's very, very weird, bro.
Yeah, I'll look into that. I've never heard that theory before, but it's something that nobody really talks about much. I've always wondered what happened to Patty, what happened to her, and I'm with you, man. You could tell that that's real.
Not only do you got the film, which is, one thing, and then you have actual tracks as well. And from what I hear, Patterson just wanted like the best ones, but there's other tracks from that incident that aren't so perfect. So you got those, because that's the thing, with the tracks, is that the feet morph when you're walking, so they're not all gonna be perfect, nice tracks. But anyway, yeah, man.
It's wild stuff, man. And I feel for those guys because they didn't have the platforms we have today to get this stuff off their chest, to share it, to talk about it. And we're pretty fortunate with that because there's a really big community out there, and hopefully this channel and other channels and your channel, man, we're helping get the word out and helping people to come forward with these stories and encounters. And those are both really unique encounters that you've had, man. And I have to ask you because I'm really curious. Man, what do you think these things are?
Yeah. So there's a lot of theories we've kicked around, and man, I've kicked around a bunch in my head, and I do lean towards more of the some sort of hominid. Um I don't think there's some like dumb ape at all. I think they're highly intelligent, and maybe with abilities that we aren't capable of, and that we don't know of. But some of these things we might be able to do ourselves. I feel like, yeah, we only use a certain amount of senses. We use our basic senses, but I feel like we have a lot more. People talk about junk DNA that we have and stuff like that. Well, what is that? Is there other things that we could tap into if we, tap into those things? And I feel that yeah, there is things that humans are capable of. That are like things that aren't conventional, that you know that could help us even heal and help humanity, man. I'm very spiritual person, so I kind of hit it from that angle, but I'm very much into science and stuff too, so I know you gotta have those boundaries. Yeah, man, I just feel like, yeah, some sort of other hominid with some amazing abilities.
That's the thing about this world is we're doing our very best to figure out what these things are, and that's what makes it so interesting to me. And I love to hear everybody's opinions and thoughts. And it's such a unique world, man. I sum it up, man. Like there's so much in God's universe we don't understand. Like we're just not gonna understand. And I definitely think there's more to these things than flesh and blood. I think they're I don't know, Nephilim, fallen angel, I don't know where you put that, but there's something there that is more than just flesh and blood. I really think that when they're flesh and blood, they are, and when they're not, they're not. I think there's something there, and it's really interesting to me, man, and I love to talk about it, but I would love to know, what would you say to somebody listening to this podcast tonight that maybe is not a believer, maybe doesn't know what to do with these encounters in Bigfoot, man? What would you say to them?
Well, if they're interested to go out and find out for themselves, go out, get out there, go camping at a spot that's has maybe some history, or that you feel a certain presence, a vibe. We say a squatchy vibe. We talk about areas being squatchy. Sorry, we have our lingo in the Bigfoot world, and some people get highly offended even when you use that word. But and I get it, whatever. But between Bigfooters, we use it. But yeah, no, there's certain areas that I could go to, and you feel a certain presence, a certain vibe, like something's here or something's going on here. And I feel like those are the places that you could maybe have an experience. And man, there's so many things that you brought up right now that I could just bounce off of, and hopefully we get to do this again. But yeah, you were talking about the Nephilim. Yeah, we could get into that. There's a whole religious aspect of what these things may be, and there is a lot of interesting biblical information and stuff too that may point that way too. So that's another thing. I don't knock that. And as far as yeah, I wasn't sure. I thought maybe you were more of a flesh and blood, full on, and that's it. Yeah, no, there's yeah, I think there's just too many, even from the natives, too many historical accounts of them doing strange things, being able to disappear, being ventriloquist. Um, yeah, the orbs come up too, and so yeah, there's something there. Why are we gonna knock what these people have been telling us for so long? And it's pretty much almost every tribe, man. So it's like, Come on, what are we denying it?
It is all in their history, man. And their culture is very, they're very truthful in what they see. They seem to not write down lies. I've been very fortunate to talk to a lot of Native American people, and they are very, blunt with these things and their stories. You can just tell when they tell them, man, that they're telling you their truths, and I respect that. And I love to talk about these different things, and my co-host is 100% flesh and blood. He believes that, and we don't see eye to eye on that. But with this platform, man, like I've tried to make it a platform where everybody can come on here and share their thoughts, their opinions, because I learn something every time I talk to somebody, and I'm sure you feel the same way. And what a wild world, man! And you have had an incredible life with these creatures, and been very fortunate to see some cool stuff, man. And what do you think that day on your second encounter when that thing was crossing the road, man? I hear about those so much. Why do you think that thing was why do they think they do that, cross the road like that? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Dude, it was almost, yeah, it's almost like I feel like they're playing chicken or something, you know? Because it was just so close. Like, I didn't see when it walked in front of the cars. I was just like imagining that this thing is gonna have to go across in front of these cars because it didn't go behind it. So if it would have gone behind it, I would have seen it. And so I didn't see that part. And it should have, I mean, I would imagine it should have stood over the cars or something, but I didn't notice anything. But yeah, I'm like, all right, well, it needs either it's gonna end up in front of my truck. But no, it should have been on the side of the road because it made it across. Nobody honked, nobody stopped. They just kept going, and yeah, nothing there unless it disappeared in front of the cars or something, But I don't think that was the case. I just feel like it made it across the road and it went down.
Wild, man. That's really similar to my encounter. It just was gone, and it happened so fast. And so I've always wondered that. And anytime I hear somebody talking about a road crossing, it's always like, I just am, it really fascinates me why they do what they do. And man, we may never know, but I appreciate you taking the time, man. Before you jump off here, man, why don't you tell our audience about your channel and how they can find you?
Yeah, thank you, man. And like I said, man, I'm pumped up. I can't. We could talk for several more hours, man. I could pick your brain too, but yeah. So my YouTube channel, I focus most of my stuff there. I do have a TikTok and Instagram, but I'm not really active there. YouTube mainly. The TikTok I am a little bit, but most of my like personal like investigations and documenting is on the YouTube, and that's brown underscore dwarf, and I think the handle is at brown dwarf 4200. And yeah, you can come on by, check out some of the videos we got going. I'm posting all the stuff from July is posted from Bluff Creek, and I'm posting all the October trip. So I posted some videos today, posting more tomorrow. I got more content for you guys. Check it out. And yeah, there's several videos. You kind of see my progression of how I've grown, throughout the years. But some of my latest videos, and there's some videos if anyone ever wants to check out. But there's some ones where I think I've captured these things. It's not full on. It's just some weird stuff happening in these hot spots that I got up there. And yeah, if you ever want to, I'll send you some stuff, man, so you could check out. But yeah, no, come on over. Leave me a message if anyone heard anything during this talk that you guys want to check out that I mentioned, and I could share with you over on my channel. Yeah, totally happy to do that, man. I'm honored, brother. Thank you so much. Yeah, prayers to the family, and thank you for sharing your encounters too. I know that part didn't make it in here, but I got to hear your stuff, and I'm interested in what else you got going on, man, in your world. I'm super excited, and thank you again to everyone.
Man, I appreciate that. It was great. I really thoroughly enjoyed that. I love that about this world. You get to connect with other people they're in this world when you get other thoughts and stuff. So I appreciate that, man. And if something pops up in the future, let me know, man. I'd love to have it back on. And guys, go check him out. Check his channel out. He's a great guy, and you can tell he loves this topic. And for somebody to take the time out of their busy schedule to come on here and share with me, it means a lot to me. And I appreciate everybody that has done that. I appreciate you guys that are here with us, that are listening to this episode. And I'm just so grateful to be able to sit in this chair and talk about this stuff. And if you've got an encounter you would like to send me or come on the show, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me by email at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. Guys, you know I'm going to say it. I can't get off here without doing it. You guys stay prayed up, and we will see you in the next episode.